People love seeing you two on the screen together.
You think so?
Yeah, I do. I think it's been...
For years, Robert Redford had the world thinking his life was all shine and perfection. But behind that smooth smile was a story he guarded like a locked safe. And please hit the subscribe button. It costs you nothing, but it means a lot to me. The Hollywood icon finally cracked that silence at 88, admitting there was one woman who changed him forever, the kind of love that leaves a mark you never wipe off. People know Redford as the golden legend from Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, or the smooth lead in The Way We Were, but before any spotlight hit him, he was just a regular kid in a tight-budget home in Santa Monica, trying to make sense of life. His pops worked numbers, his mom kept everything afloat, and Redford moved through Van Nuys with dreams way bigger than the block he grew up on. He wasn't the school type at all. He'd zone out in class, but lock in hard on a paintbrush or a tennis court. He even warmed up legend Pancho Gonzalez one time, which blew his mind. But college? That went sideways fast. He partied too hard, lost his scholarship, and got kicked out, a moment that could have ended everything. But Redford wasn't built to quit, so he dipped out and drifted through Europe, living broke but free, sketching in cafes, painting in alleys, and trying to figure out who the real Robert Redford was becoming. During his time roaming Europe, something new sparked inside Robert, that tiny flicker that would push him toward acting. When he came back to the States, he bounced to New York, studying painting at Pratt before testing his luck at the American Academy of Dramatic Arts. No overnight fame, no big spotlight moment, just small gigs and stubborn grind. But the real twist in his life showed up in the late 1950s when he met Lola Van Wagenen, a woman who carried calm like armor. She came from a strict, faith-rooted world in Utah. Nothing like Robert's wild California vibe, yet somehow they fit together like puzzle pieces. Their bond hit so hard they eloped in 1958 against her family's wishes, choosing love over approval. Money was tight, acting was uncertain, and life threw them heartbreaking challenges, including losing their first child, a pain that could crush any couple, yet it pulled them even tighter in their fight to stay together. Lola was that steady force Robert didn't even know he needed, a real anchor in the middle of chaos. He later said she was the love of his life, and it makes sense because she held him up when everything around him felt shaky. As his career started climbing, life got wild fast. His big break came with Barefoot in the Park on Broadway, and the crowd couldn't get enough of him. Hollywood came calling, pulling him into shows like The Twilight Zone and Perry Mason before those major film roles hit and turned him into a full-on star. Then, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid dropped, and boom, Robert wasn't just famous, he was the face everyone knew. But that kind of spotlight hits home life hard. He was gone for months on shoots while Lola held things down and raised their 3 kids, trying to keep the family steady while he chased the next big role. Robert later admitted he wishes he had put his family first more often, but back then ambition had him moving like a man on a mission. Still, Lola stayed his closest voice of reason, the one who backed him when he launched the Sundance Film Festival, a move that flipped the whole indie film world on its head. If Lola hadn't pushed him, Sundance might have never existed. That's how powerful her presence was in Robert's life. But by the mid-80s, even deep love couldn't patch the cracks anymore. After 27 years, they called it quits in 1985, quietly and respectfully, still raising their kids together like real adults. Robert kept saying Lola was the love of his life, and that honesty showed just how much she shaped him, even after the marriage ended. Losing that steady base shook him up, but he didn't fold. He shifted personally and professionally, trying to rebuild his balance. Not long after the divorce, he crossed paths with Brazilian actress Sônia Braga, a woman with fire in her spirit and a presence you couldn't ignore. Their attraction was instant, wild, and intense, the kind of chemistry that lights up every room. They weren't together long, but their time was loud, bold, and full of passion as Robert promoted the Milagro Beanfield War, a film packed with the heart and meaning he loved. They even hit the Cannes red carpet together, turning heads like a power duo, but their flame burned out fast, and by 1988, they split ways. Then came 1990 on the set of Havana, when Robert met Lena Olin, a Swedish actress with a gaze sharp enough to stop you mid-sentence. Their on-screen spark didn't stay on screen for long. It jumped straight into real life. When Robert and Lena hit the screen together, that chemistry didn't feel staged. It felt like something real breaking through the frame. And if you were at the premiere, you'd know their kiss wasn't just movie magic. That one came straight from the heart. Their romance lasted about a year, but it stamped itself into both their lives. They connected through creativity and honesty, two artists caught in the same emotional lane. At the time, Robert was still chasing heavy, meaningful work like Havana, a layered political drama set during the Cuban Revolution. He loved stories with bite, and he carried that same intensity into his time with Lena. But Hollywood flames burn bright and fast, and by 1991 they split, leaving another complicated chapter in Robert's long trail of love stories. By the mid-90s, he was proving he still had that lead man magic, starring with Michelle Pfeiffer in Up Close and Personal, pulling off that older journalist falls for rising anchor vibe like he was born for it. Even off camera, romance wasn't done with him. Around that time, he got close to Kathy O'Rear, a costume designer nearly 20 years younger, someone far away from the noisy Hollywood spotlight. Her grounded vibe and creative mind gave Robert a calm space to breathe, something rare in his world of non-stop cameras and pressure. Their relationship stayed private, quiet, and steady, exactly the kind of balance he needed while juggling acting, directing, producing, and reshaping the film world, one project at a time. After Up Close and Personal, Robert came back swinging with The Horse Whisperer in 1998, a film he directed and starred in. He played a quiet, healing type who fixes broken horses while helping a wounded family find its way again, and audiences ate it up. The movie proved once more that Robert didn't need explosions or gimmicks to command the screen. By this point, he wasn't just a Hollywood name, he was a full-on cultural force. Sundance was growing into a powerhouse, opening doors for filmmakers who would have never gotten a shot without him. People admired his talent, sure, but it was his vision and courage to back risky, meaningful stories that made him stand out. But the story of Robert Redford was never just about work. His love life carried its own wild chapters. Sonia, Lena, Kathy, each relationship marked a different version of him. The same way, each film revealed a new side of his spirit. Even Jane Fonda, his longtime co-star, once admitted she had real feelings for him during their films together. She laughed about how he could be moody or late, but something about him kept pulling her in. Their bond never turned romantic, but it added another twist to Robert's already layered journey. As the 2000s rolled in, he kept evolving, pushing his career beyond acting and continuing to shape the industry in ways only he could. Robert kept leveling up his career, directing The Legend of Bagger Vance, supporting environmental causes, and producing bold projects like The Motorcycle Diaries. The man never stayed still, never stopped chasing something meaningful, and when you look back at his relationships, a pattern shows itself. Robert always lived with his chest open, taking big swings in love just like he did in his work. Sonia brought fire, Lena brought intensity, Kathy brought quiet comfort. Each woman stamped a chapter of his life, just like every film added another layer to his legacy. Then came the twist he didn't expect. Sibyl Sagers, an artist and environmental activist who walked into his Sundance resort in the late 90s without knowing much about his fame. Imagine that. Someone meeting Robert Redford without seeing the movie star first. That hit different for him, and he admitted it made everything feel more real. She even rented a stack of his movies before their first dinner just to catch up, but he never brought them up. Because from day one, their vibe wasn't about Hollywood. It was about two people actually connecting. Over time, that bond grew deeper, and in 2009, they married in a quiet ceremony in Sibyl's hometown of Hamburg, Germany. Sibyl was an artist with nature in her veins, painting, sketching, creating performances that honored the earth and pushed people to protect it. Together, she and Robert became a serious force for environmental activism. They even launched a non-profit called The Way of the Rain, mixing her art with his storytelling to spotlight the planet's struggles. Robert once said Sibyl gave him a whole new life, and you can see it. Their shared passion for the earth didn't just unite them, it transformed him. Even as Sibyl became a major part of Robert's later years, his love for his family never stepped to the side. With his first wife, Lola, he had 4 children, Shauna, James, Amy, and their first baby boy, who passed away shortly after birth from a medical complication. Robert has said that loss stayed with him forever, shaping how he looked at life, work, and the people he loved. His son James walked a path strikingly close to Robert's own, filmmaking, storytelling, and fighting for the planet with every project he touched. James poured his heart into documentaries and pushed for awareness around organ and tissue donation after facing serious health battles himself, turning pain into purpose with incredible strength. Together, Robert and James created the Redford Center, a nonprofit using film to spotlight environmental issues, a mission fueled by hope, grit, and real action. Losing James in 2020 to illness was another heavy blow for Robert, but he never stopped speaking proudly about the kind of man his son was. He called James a soul who carried hope everywhere he went, someone determined to make the world better, no matter what stood in his way. Robert's daughters, Shauna and Amy, carried that Redford creative spark like it was built into their DNA. Shauna, born in 1960, became an artist with her own quiet strength, the kind of presence Robert always admired. She stayed low-key, built a life away from the Hollywood noise, married author Eric Schlosser, and raised 2 kids, Micah and Connor, who are now carving out their own lanes. Amy, the youngest, turned into a force behind the camera, a filmmaker, director, and producer with her own voice and hustle. She blended Robert's storytelling instincts with her own bold style, directing films, music videos, and shorts, all while raising 3 daughters and pushing for women's stories to shine. And then came the grandkids, 7 in total, the next wave of Redford talent. His grandson Dylan even stepped into filmmaking and somehow convinced Robert to voice a dolphin in Omniboat, a fast boat fantasia. Imagine Robert Redford playing a dolphin. That's how you know he never lost his humor or his love for supporting his family's creativity. Even as the family tree grew, Robert kept grinding into the 2000s, taking on some of the most daring roles of his career. In All Is Lost, he played a man stranded at sea with almost no dialogue, just him, the ocean, and raw survival energy, earning some of the best reviews of his later years. Then he flipped the script completely in Captain America, the Winter Soldier, playing Alexander Pierce, the slick mastermind behind Hydra, a major plot twist for fans who grew up seeing him as the hero. And in 2018, after starring in The Old Man and the Gun as a charming, old-school bank robber, a role that echoed his classic Butch Cassidy charm, Robert announced he was stepping away from acting. The Old Man and the Gun felt like the perfect curtain call for Robert, smooth, sharp, and full of that classic Redford nostalgia. But he later admitted he jumped the gun on announcing his retirement, saying, "You never know." And he proved it when he popped back up as Alexander Pierce in Avengers. Endgame. Even at that stage in life, he still had a little heat left in him. Through every era, one thing never changed: Robert's love for storytelling, Whether he was acting, directing, producing, or shaping Sundance, he moved like a man who couldn't help but create. In his personal life, too, he kept telling stories, through his children, his partnerships, and his activism, living with heart, purpose, and a whole lot of passion. Now with Sibyl by his side, Robert pours his energy into what matters most: family, art, and the planet they fight to protect together. He once said life is all about learning and growing, no matter your age, and he's lived that truth every step of the way. Robert Redford isn't just a Hollywood icon. He's a father, a grandfather, an artist, and someone who never stopped believing in the power of stories to move people and change the world. If you enjoyed this ride through his incredible life, make sure to like, share, subscribe, drop a comment, and tell us your favorite Robert Redford moment. See you on the next one.